Game of Thrones' decision to take Yara Greyjoy, Asha Greyjoy from the books, and adapt her into a lesbian character for the TV series has always left me with kind of mixed emotions. Because on the one hand, like with Renly and Loras, I really appreciate that we are getting explicit representation on the TV show. We are seeing sexual orientation like out and out shown, and it isn't like hinted at or suggested. Like, no, you know that like this person is a lesbian. You know that Renly and Loras are gay. But I think the issue with it is the people who are making these decisions in the adaptations are kind of showing off the fact that they aren't very in tune with queerness or how to represent it in a nuanced way on screen. Which is why I get a little uncomfortable with the representation of Yara. I'm going to use quotes because she's Asha for me in the books, but the representation of Yara as a lesbian feels like a very surface level, this is what I understand lesbianism to be as a straight man writing in Hollywood. Which, before anyone in the comments is like, well, there are two straight guys in Hollywood. Like, yeah, but they also have a writer's room, and that's kind of the point of a writer's room. A writer's room, for anyone who doesn't know, is how TV shows function and are run, where basically you have a room of, I don't know, like 4 to 12 writers who hopefully are a diverse group of people. You know, you have men, you have women, you have different sexual orientations, you hopefully have racial diversity in the room. The idea being that like everyone is going to come at things from a slightly different angle, and you will work together to craft the show that you're wanting to make, hopefully with some nuance to it. You know, anytime you want to include people that, you know, may not be exactly like the two showrunners, the two guys in charge. And so what I find particularly interesting about this character in particular is it's not just that we are getting a character who is canonically straight in the books being shown to, you know, be a lesbian in the TV series, but it's coming at the cost of other characters and their sexualities being reduced back to straight, and then this being our only lesbian-ish representation. And I am, of course, talking about Daenerys and Cersei in the books, who both have explicit lesbian sex scenes. And no, they don't just come out of anywhere. I promise they're plot related. But I do think it's very telling that you have these two characters, these two women, who are the two of the biggest stars of the series, and their character sexualities get reduced down to zilch. These are hetero women. Yes, in the books, they're playing in the lady pond, but no, not in our show. In our show, these women like boys and boys with girls only. Boo. But don't worry, because we'll give you other lesbian representation with another character, a character who isn't a lesbian in the books, but we will make for the purposes of the TV show. Here, have Yara Greyjoy, because Asha sounds too close to Osha, and everyone will be confused, even though, you know, there are 20 other characters with similar names. It's fine. Sorry, I'm getting a little off track here. But what am I getting at? What is my ultimate point here? Well, I think that the reason that we get the representation that we get is because for those show writers, those showrunners, this is a type of lesbian representation that they can wrap their heads around and that they can understand. Why? Because we are leaning on all of the tropes. It's literally the same issue that we get with Renly and Loras. Like, is it good that their roles were expanded in the TV shows, that we get more explicit representation of them, like as a like legitimate couple who is like loving and care about each other, etc., etc.? Yes, but it gets done in a way that is leaning on stereotypes. It's leaning on tropes, where you take someone like a Renly Baratheon, who is described as a like beast of a man, this like emblem of masculinity, and like, yeah, he likes to dress very well, but he's a 6'5" buff dude who could like wreck your shit, and he regularly like plays in tourneys. But in the show, we get like a slightly like effeminate, kind of uncomfortable in his body, like twinkish guy with a beard. Because that's what those showrunners understand as far as sexuality goes. So when it comes time for the lesbian representation to be adapted for the screen, well, they're kind of in a pickle because they aren't used to having to adapt complex storylines, you know, related to like queer sexuality. In the books, Asha Greyjoy is like a tomboyish warrior type who is straight. She is canonically straight. She has sex with a dude. One of her POV chapters is them having very, very like rough and intense sex, which I didn't enjoy reading about, but whatever, George, whatever, it's fine. But when they get to the point where they're wanting to include some of this, lesbian representation, or at least they feel like they have to, because at this point in time, I think the audience, or at least like the queer, the woke, or whatever you want to call it, portion of it would have gotten upset if it was fully cut out from the series. Because again, there is representation in the books, so if we don't get any of it, if we are turning them both fully straight and then not replacing it with something, I think people would have been like, well, that's like kind of weird and homophobic / sexist. So for them, I think the easier option was to take a path with describing and representing lesbianism with tropes, just like they did with Renly and with Loras. And so you take the one character who's already kind of a tomboy and who's an adult, because we're not going to touch Arya yet until like the actress is old enough for us to throw a sex scene at her, which was fucking gross. Another gross thing about season 8. Again, getting distracted, sorry. But so they take the tomboy character who they can then just push a little further and be like, well, not only is she a tomboy, she's also into girls. And hey, she fits into every stereotype that like the media likes to use to portray lesbians, that they're like all very butch, that they're all very aggressive, that they're all like kind of like the tops in their situation. That scene where we see her and Theon at like a brothel, and she's like pulling the woman onto her leg because like, yeah, I'm a lesbian. Like, it's ugh. And this is like ultimately my problem, is like I feel like I am watching them take the easy way out for representation. So am I happy that there is representation on screen? Like, yes, but like, could it be any more deep than this like option B that I can tell you're only going towards because it's the only thing you would be comfortable writing about, because you don't have like the empathy, the understanding of the world, or like the desire to go and like pursue that knowledge from other people who might know it when it comes to portraying these two and their journeys. Because these two get very like thoughtful, introspective kind of like explorations of sexuality. You have like Daenerys, who is now alone and at the end of the day is still like a teenager, who at one point with one of her handmaids starts like trying stuff in bed because she's like, hey, I had a husband, I had like a sex life, I don't have that anymore, and like I kind of miss that. And then her and a handmaid start exploring. Now, is the result of that she is like now bi? I don't know. I think there's argument for it. I think the general sense that I get when reading it is that she wasn't as into it, but it was like something she was trying, which I think at the end of the day is a very normal thing to write about and explore. But I do think it's a thing that those Chucklefucks D&D, the showrunners, have like no idea how to like handle themselves. Because like how do you take something which is like a quiet like teenage exploration of like sexuality and like trying to understand oneself and one's body and like avoid their normal like voyeuristic bullshit? They can't. It's like it doesn't make sense to them. It's not the type of story or plot line that they would adopt or adapt, and so it's one of the ones that gets cut. Meanwhile, Cersei's is so complex and fucked up. I know I keep promising a video on this and it is coming, but it's Cersei's whole exploration with sexuality is even kind of, I would say, deeper than Daenerys's, because it's also in a way like her exploring not only her sexuality, but I'll say her like gender representation, her like gender identity, and then she is exploring like her own past trauma and abuse with it. It's a very multi-layered thing that is going on. All this to say something that, again, those two chucklefucks would have no idea how to tackle themselves. So rather than approaching either of these storylines about queerness, about possible lesbianism, exploring like women with women, they're going to avoid it. They're going to avoid it. They're not going to get anywhere near it because like this is too complex. This is too like out there. They don't understand how to like wrap their heads around it. But what do they understand how to wrap their heads around? aggressive lesbian. And again, if you really love the TV show's version of this character, if you love Yara Greyjoy, I think that's great. I do think that the character has wonderful, very admirable qualities. I would argue like a lot of them are the ones that she gets from the book, but like it's okay if you enjoy this. I just think that there's a conversation to be had because there are pros and there are cons. I do love representation. I just wish it was a little deeper. Anyway, don't forget to like, comment what you want me to talk about next. Yay lesbians, y'all are the best too. I hope y'all have a great night, and I will see you with more Pride stuff tomorrow. Okay, bye!